So basically, this is the homepage of the dashboard. I'll quickly run you through the concepts that we have with regards to accounting on the homepage. Then we can start off with the proper training.
Yep.
So here under action pending, the first thing that we have is payment intimation. Now, so what happens is once these bills are generated in the mygate dashboard, right? The
Mhm.
resident can basically clear the payment in two different scenarios. So one is where they log into the application, they go to the society due section, they click
Yep.
on pay now, and they can choose from various modes of payment.
Yep.
The second way is, so let's say the resident is using an offline method to make the payment. It could be a cash payment, check payment, or an EFT transfer that they have done directly to the association bank account.
Mhm.
In that case, the resident can log into the mygate application. Now, against the due, they have an option called as I have paid, where the resident will have to choose the mode of payment and mandatorily enter the reference details.
Yep.
Once you click on submit, the admin would be intimated about the payment that they have made, and then you can verify whether you have actually received these details or not, and then you can create a receipt for them.
Okay.
So those are called payment intimation. We'll again be covering this in detail as we move forward with the training session today.
Uh-huh.
On the right side, we have the shortcut of raising an invoice. Now, as I scroll below here, we have the summary of all the accounts. So on the left side, we have the total dues, which are the invoices that are generated till date, wherein you have not yet received the payment from the residents. Total dues are those dues which were generated where even the due date has surpassed and you have not yet received the payment against them. Next is vendor overdues. Now, so in the dashboard, there are two different ways in which the expenses can be recorded. If in case you choose to go for a vendor expense this thing, then in
Mhm.
that case, you first have to generate an invoice for yourself and then record the payment against it. So until that payment is recorded and if the due date has surpassed, it will be termed as a vendor overdue on the dashboard.
Okay.
And next, we have the advance account balance. Now, any amount that is being paid in excess by any of the flats is going to be termed as an advance account balance in the dashboard.
Got it.
And on the right side here, we have the cash and bank opening balances. Is there any doubts that you have with regards to any of these on the homepage?
No, this pretty clear.
Okay. So we'll start off with the accounting module. So the first thing we'll be covering is chart of accounts, post which we'll move to the income part and then the expense module, sir.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So chart of account in the dashboard is nothing but an accounting header that is created. Now, each time that you record an income or an expense, it has to be specified under a chart of account. And at the end of the financial year, all your income and expenses would reflect under those accounts in the balance sheet as well. Now, some of these accounts are going to be predefined in the system. Let's say, for example, with regards to income, you will have like your maintenance charges, electricity, all these to be predefined. Similarly,
Yeah.
you'll have some expenses headers also that will be defined. In addition to that, if you wish to create more, go on the top right corner here, click on create account. You just have to enter the name of the account and select a subcategory. Now, let's say, for example, if it is a housekeeping salary or a security staff salary or your BESCOM payment that you need to create, just enter
Mhm.
the name over here. And the subcategory could be a direct or an indirect income or an expense. This
This is
transaction, sir,
obviously expense, no? So it will be indirect expense.
that's correct, sir. So if in case it is an expense, then it can be a direct or an indirect expense. In case of an income, it can be a direct or an indirect income.
How do
We
you
can,
differentiate between these two?
between the direct and the indirect income, sir.
Yeah.
So direct income would be something that you're receiving from the resident straight up. And your
Okay.
indirect income could be anything from your residential income, like let's say any shops being let out, which is called as a non-member
Okay.
income, or
Got it.
any promotional stalls being put up in the society. So we have these subcategories that have been created, and you do not have to select the transaction account or the cash account. This is only used in case of the society bank or cash account. So
Okay.
just the name and the subcategory.
And what about this general ledger?
This is if in case, let's say, for example, you want to start recording stationery expenses, right? So this is a ledger that you can create under which this particular category would get created. So you would have a ledger called, let's say, stationery, under which you can have your first. So let's say you create indirect expenses, then you create a general ledger called as stationery. Then with stationery, you create headers like pen, pencil, like that. So it's a general ledger that would get specified in the balance sheet. Under that specific general ledger, you can have various chart of accounts.
Got it.
Any other doubts with chart of accounts, sir?
Sorry?
Any other doubt with regards to chart of accounts?
No, but just a quick thing, like, when I'm entering a name, it can be anything of our specifics, no?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because that day I sent you a list of expenses we have. So we have around 10 12 expenditures, so that I can capture it here as per there is no naming convention restriction, right? It
No,
is a
sir.
free text which I can give it.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. So now starting off with the income part, we go to accounts, invoicing, and member invoices. So first we'll be covering on how you can generate the bills in mygate. Now for invoice generation, there are 3 steps that are to be followed. In the first step, we create the invoice template. In the second step, we configure the amount. Third step, we can select certain settings and then generate these bills up. So in the top right corner, I'm going to click on create invoice template. Now here I'll enter the invoice description, let's say monthly maintenance invoices. This account number is the bank integration that we have done for your society. In case
Yep.
any late payment penalty is applicable, you can select that from the drop down if in case we have configured it. Next.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
A question, is this going to be a monthly or recurring exercise, or is it going to be a one time, for example, the maintenance part will not change every month, so is it going to be every month I have to do this?
No, sir, no, sir. In that case, it'll be a one-time activity. We also have something called as auto generation on a monthly basis, which we
Okay.
can enable for your society. Like it can be done from the admin dashboard itself. It can be enabled, then the system would auto generate the invoices on a fixed date of every month.
Yeah, we want this to be generated on 10th of first of every month, and then the due date to pay would be on 10th of the month.
Sure, so that can be said, sir. So before concluding today's call, you can just log into the dashboard and present your screen. We can
Okay,
just verify the details there and then and auto set it for the next month generation, sir.
got it. Yeah.
Okay. So now the first option that you see is enabled by default, so that from this particular template that we are creating, we can also generate invoices in the future.
Mhm.
Next, we have something called as settle from advance and instant settle. Now, when we enable settle from advance, the system is going to wait one day before the due date for the residents to make the payment. So let's say if 10th is the due date, then the system will wait till 9th for the residents to pay. If in
Mhm.
case the payment is not received on 10th, the system will run a check on all the advances that are there in the system and accordingly settle those bills. So in
Okay.
case of settle from advance, the settlement is going to happen on the due date. However, in case of instant settle, the same settlement from the advance account will happen instantly when the bill gets generated. So let's say the system pushes a bill of 2,500. Now there is an advance of rupees 2,500. It will immediately settle that and generate a receipt for that particular flat.
Okay.
Next, we have this enable receipt box. Now so I'll just enable this. Now what happens is this is a small acknowledgement receipt that would be visible at the bottom of the invoice. This is only if in case a society wants to take a printout of it, enter the payment receiving detail, put a society stamp and hand it over to the resident as an acknowledgement for the payment receipt.
Only
However,
for the hard copy
that's
bill.
correct, sir.
Okay.
However, each time you're marking a due as a settle, there will always be a receipt that is going to get generated. So I'm just enabling this. So while we're previewing it, you can always see how this will look like.
Sure.
Next, we have something called as include previous areas, wherein we have 3 types of areas. Now we have consolidated areas. So if I enable this at the top of my invoice, any previous months dues or advances would be visible on the invoice that is getting generated today. In the application, however, it will be a separate bills itself. It's just that but if I enable this, it will show how much was a previous consolidated area that is still there in the system.
Okay.
Similarly, we have something called as bifurcated areas, where from a specific general type or a ledger type, you can include the dues, which will be shown separately. So let's say in future, you start collecting any additional fund apart from maintenance as well, which is sort of mandatory. So you can have an area reflecting only for maintenance or an area reflecting only for the next additional charge by creating a general ledger for it.
Okay.
And the third type that we have is import areas from bill plan, wherein from a specific bill type, you can choose what areas are to be included in the invoice. So I'm going to go ahead and enable such consolidated areas, and all these settings that we have selected over here will also show up in the invoice that we are generating.
Okay.
Now next, this is the charge item. So whatever bill that we're going to collect from the residents is going to be entered over here. So in item description, I'm going to enter this as maintenance charges. Now comes my charge account. This charge account is nothing but the chart of account that I've created in the system. I'm going to go ahead and select this as, let's say, dues receivable maintenance charges. Next, we have the charge type, wherein we have three type of charges. We have something called as general charge, which is a flat rate from all the residents. Then we have area-based
Mhm.
charges, which is on square feet basis, and meter charges are applicable in case of water collection.
Got it.
So, sir, in your society, the calculation is happening on area-based.
Area based, yes.
Okay. So I'm going to select this. And is there any GST that is applicable?
Uh-huh. GST
Okay.
not now.
Okay. So in that case, we can leave this as blank. Then the resident type and the tar type will remain as all. And at the
Okay.
bottom here, we have something called as invoice footer notes, where we can enter or roll out any terms and condition along with the invoice. Like we can say, like kindly clear your dues by 10th of every month, otherwise a penalty of XYZ amount would be levied, something like that.
Got it.
And in addition to that, let's say if you want to tell them, if they're paying through the mygate application, then these are the steps. Or if you want to pay it offline, then you can send an intimation through the mygate application. Or in case of direct
Uh-huh.
transfer to the association or the virtual account, these are the details. I'm just going to click on save. Is there any doubt with regards to template creation?
No, this is fine.
So now as you can see, this is the template that we have created now. The second step would be for us to configure the amount. So on the right side, I'm going to click on configure amount over here. Now, because we have uploaded the area square feet details, that would get reflected against each of the flat. Now, all I have to do is enter the rate per square feet. Let's say if it is rupees 2.5, I enter the rate, I click on submit. Now the system will run a multiplier between the area square feet into the rate per square feet, and the total amount would reflect over here.
Got it.
And if I want, I can also round it off to the nearest amount and then click on submit. So any doubt with the second step of amount configuration, sir?
No, but can you just show me this step one more time? Where
Sure, sir,
exactly?
sure. Okay, so I'll just go to the previous page. So here we have this option of configure amount.
Uh-huh.
So I'll just click on configure amount, and then here
Wow.
I'll enter the rate per square feet and click on submit. And the system would run a multiplier. I would round it off to the nearest amount and then click on save, sir.
Got it.
And after you've done it as a first time, then second time it will be reflecting as edit amount instead of configure amount, sir.
Hmm.
I'll just show it to you. So now it will reflect as edit amount since we have already configured the amount once.
Yes.
Okay, so now here on the left side, we have this option of monthly generation, sir. So I will simply enable this and I'll enter the next charge generation day of the month, which is let's say first. Number of days to pay is going to be my due date, let's say 10. And if in case there is no penalty, then you can just leave this as 1 and click on update over here.
Mm-hmm.
Now, automatically from next month, first onwards, it will keep triggering these bills, sir.
Okay.
And if in case you have to make any changes to it, just make sure that you make it before 31st because on first midnight, the system will push these invoices.
Okay.
Like now it says day 1 of every month. And then you can choose to notify the residents via email, SMS, and push notification. You can limit it to just either the owners or the tenants or to all the residents. And
Yeah.
then as a one-time activity, ideally you should be clicking on generate invoice, but this would not be applicable since we're going to enable monthly generation for your society. So I'll just show you a preview of these bills. I'm going to click on generate invoice. And this is where I have to enter the charge date and the due date. I can always cross off the next line processing date since it is not applicable. Just click on preview over here.
Charge date would be on the first and then due date would be 10th. Is that how it works?
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
And so this is what the invoice would look like. Now, because I have enabled consolidated arrears, I can see my previous advances and interest on my advances reflecting over here. I have the house number, area square feet details. On the right side, I have the invoice date and the due date reflecting. This maintenance invoice that you see is to do with my current maintenance bill that is being generated. And the system will also show you the calculation on the area square feet type, sir. So 550 is the area square feet and 2.5 is the rate per square feet.
Yep.
Now, any terms and conditions, which was the invoice footer notes, would reflect over here, and that acknowledgement receipt that I was talking about is this one, sir.
Okay.
So if you do not
Yeah.
want this, you can always have this disabled. And for the residents and for the society, basically, since we have activated virtual accounts now, on this
Uh-huh.
invoice itself, over here, right next to this is a computer generated invoice, right? Right
Mhm.
over here, they'll have their respective virtual account number and the IFSC code mentioned, sir.
Okay.
It'll be mentioned in both. So they can refer to the bill as well.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any doubt with regards to invoice generation?
No, this is fine.
Okay, so now when I, let's say, generate these bills, so every month when these bills are being generated for the society, there's going to be a unique group batch ID that will get created. So as you can see, we have one batch ID reflecting over here. We have the created date and time and other details. And if I move my cursor on the right corner on this black icon over here, I can see which of the admin has created this particular invoice.
Mm-hmm.
And by clicking on this batch ID, which is going to generate every month, I can see the settings that I had selected and the invoices that were generated for the society.
Okay. And Jyotsna, when you're doing this, it will auto calculate the previous month's overdue also, right?
That's correct. So it will be reflecting on top of the invoices consolidated areas.
Okay. No, I mean, when they get a bill in their app, it will have
Uh-huh.
both arrears and then the new month due.
No, sir, no, sir. For the resident, let's say previous month's bill and the current month bill are going to be two separate invoices.
So, for example, I'll take one example. My flat maintenance can be 1,000 rupees. I don't pay that amount. Next month, when I get a bill in the app, will it show 1,000 plus 1,000, or will it show 1,000 as one line and another 1,000 as another line?
So the latter one, sir. So each of them will show as 1,000, one invoice. The second invoice would be 1,000, like that. So
So
I'll just,
they'll have to calculate the total, I mean, sum of it and then pay it.
if they're paying offline, yes, sir. But if they're paying through application, then they'll have to go through each one of them one by one.
Okay.
I'll just share a screenshot with you on WhatsApp right away. You can just refer to that. Hamza, did you receive it?
Yeah, got it now. Okay.
So like this, it'll be each invoice individually, sir.
Okay, got it.
So any other doubts that you have with regards to invoice generation?
No, this is fine.
Okay, and sir, I just saw a message from Rama sir on the group saying that they want
Okay.
to add the logo with address and registration number.
Yeah.
So if you can share those details with me, I can have it added on the invoice, sir.
All right. I'll share that with you after the call.
All right, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
But it'll only reflect on the new bills that will get generated, not the existing ones, sir.
That will be from next month.
Correct, sir.
Okay.
Okay. Now, sir, after these bills are generated, there are three different ways in which the receipts can be created in the system.
Uh-huh.
The first scenario is where the resident is using the mygate application. They go to the against the invoice, they click on pay now. They get redirected to the payment gateway. Whatever settlement is happening over there is credited into the association bank account in T+2 working day, and the receipt gets auto generated.
Okay.
Similarly, in case of virtual account, the transfer would follow a similar process. It's just that the amount will be credited on the same day, sir.
Okay.
However, if the transaction is done, let's say after 8 or 9 p.m., then the credit would happen on the next day. But again, the receipt will get instantly generated for them. So there is no intervention required from the admin end in that case. In the second scenario, like we previously discussed, where the resident goes to the mygate application, the society due section, and now they click on I have paid, where they have to select the mode of payment being EFT, check or cash payment, mandatorily enter the reference detail, and then a payment intimation is triggered. So I go to accounts, dues and receipts, and payment intimation. Now, as you can see, we have these two payment intimations being triggered by one of the owners. So we have the date mentioned here and the door number. Now we have the mode of payment. Now, as per the mode of payment, the reference details will accordingly change. So as in case of check payment, we have the bank name, bank branch, and check number, which is mandatory. In case of EFT, it's going to be bank name and the reference number. Right now, you'll scroll on the right side. The actions that you can perform against the payment intimation is you can either reject this intimation if in case it is a false claim or you need more relevant information to settle this, or you can directly click on confirm and settle, wherein the receipt page would appear. So
Yeah.
now here the details will be auto-fed as per whatever the resident has triggered. All you have to do is select the receiving account, which is the association's bank account.
Yeah, this I've done it, so I'm comfortable with this one.
Okay, so great. So now we can just click on create receipt, the receipt gets created. Now in the third scenario, let's say the resident uses an offline method to make the payment and they're not even intimating you through a payment intimation that the payment has been made. So that time you have to create the receipt manually for them, sir. So you have to go to accounts, dues and receipt and dues over here. Now this is the page where you can perform various actions with regards to individual flats in the society.
Mhm.
So all you have to do is select the house number over here and click on show dues. Now
Yeah.
here you can see the total dues, the overdues, advance amount, and the security deposit reflecting over here. So
Mhm.
let's say if he's clearing the payment for this particular invoice, just select this and click on settle dues.
Yeah.
And then you can select the mode of payment and then enter the receipt date. How much amount have you received?
Mhm.
What is the receiving account, which is the association's cash or bank account? In case of a check payment, you can enter the check details. In case of EFT, just enable EFT. In case of cash, you can select the cash payment over here. The amount gets auto-populated. Then click on create receipt and the due is marked as settled and the bill is generated. The receipt is generated for them. So any doubt with the third step, sir?
No, as I told, this part I'm pretty clear about it. I've been doing this, so it's fine.
Okay, sir. And all the receipts that are generated would reflect over here. And if in case you're canceling any of the receipts due to, let's say, incorrect detail or some rectification, the cancel receipt would be visible over here, sir.
Okay.
Now coming back to this due page. Now so what happens in the system is when you're generating the bill on first and the due date is entered as 10th, right? On first, the first level of notification is sent to the resident informing them about the bill generation. And on 10th, which is the due date, there's a reminder which is auto sent by the system. In addition to that, if you want to set multiple reminder sending for those residents who have not yet paid, we have this auto due reminder sending option, sir, where you can click on change, choose the frequency of the intimation, choose how many days or months should it be sent to, and then you can pick a start date. And simply enable email and SMS, and system would auto trigger those reminders on those fixed days of every month.
Okay. Sorry, when you say frequency, can this be done on a daily basis also?
Yes, sir, yes, sir. So if I click on change over here, I have a
Huh?
frequency of, let's say, after days, I set this as 1. So every day, then this reminder would be set.
Okay. And any time that we can select?
No, so time is not selectable. However, even if you're setting this due reminder, it will only be sent to those residents who have not yet paid, sir.
Correct. But at what time it would go?
So timing, I am not very sure on that. Right.
Yeah.
I'll have to check on the auto reminder timing, sir.
Yeah.
I'll,
Just check and let me know, because if you're sending it on some busy time, no, people may not even read the messages. So it's either it should be early in the morning, or it should be in the evening when people are just sitting at home. They should get that pop-up message or the reminder. That's Otherwise they'll be busy with their office works, and then they may not pay attention.
fair enough, sir. I'll have this checked with my team, sir.
Yeah, please. Okay.
Okay. Now coming back to this individual activity that I was referring to. So let's say we select a flat over here. If in case you want to add, now apart from these actions, the other activities that we can perform with specific flat is just click on select options. You can add a charge, which means generate an invoice for them specifically. Add credit note is by giving them a waiver of an existing invoice. You can add a security deposit or collect the advance as well. Is there
Okay.
any doubt you have with regards to this particular income module?
No, but if we have to take the previous example, like, the flat which I gave you, if I want to make, edit, or if I want to make the correction in the due amount, how do I do it?
Okay, so sir, like in general, let's say if this is a bill that you have generated and you
Mhm.
want to delete it, so like you will not be able to edit it for now. We do not have that option. However,
Mhm.
you can always cancel an invoice and then regenerate it, sir.
Okay.
But since the dues that is currently uploaded in the system was done by the backend team as opening balances, you will not be
Yeah.
able to cancel it from here, sir.
Okay. So
So I
it
will
has
have
to be
to.
done from your end only then.
That's correct. So it would have to be done from the backend itself. Only for
Oh,
this particular opening balance that we have updated. Next month onwards, when these bills are generated, let's say if I want to cancel this particular invoice, I just have to click on cancel and I can just mention a reason for it. And if I click on delete, it'll get removed. So
okay.
that
Can this
invoice
be
is
done? Can this be done for an individual flat, or it has to be done like, in a bulk? The bill generation which you showed.
okay. So bill generation as in this one.
Oh, okay. Add a charge will be a bill then.
That's correct. So let's say if you bulk generated the bills and there was correction only for one of the flats, right? So you can
Uh-huh.
delete it over here for this particular flat, which is let's say 33C10. You can cancel the current invoice that is generated and click on add charge and regenerate the bill with the
Okay.
correct details.
Yeah.
And apart from this particular page, if in case let's say you generate the bills in bulk which you want to delete, you can go to invoicing, invoice history, and here we have a cancel option, sir. So the entire batch would get deleted.
Okay.
And if you want to do it for specific flats, either you can choose to do it on that page or over here also have cancel option.
Yeah.
Okay. So now, sir, apart from the resident income, do you also have any, income coming from any commercial outlets that you have in the society, like any rent that you're receiving or any recurring income on a monthly basis?
As of now, no. It's a new project. In fact, it's still under construction, or incomplete project. So even the amenities part is getting done now. So we don't have the other source of income apart from the maintenance.
And so no one-time incomes as well.
No, there is nothing as such.
Okay, okay. Okay, so not a problem. And in future, when you have the amenities up and running, you can just let mygate team know we have a separate module for adding amenities up.
Yeah, see, correct. Now we have added. I mean, we have now asked to not to show that in the resident module.
Okay.
Maybe once, like, maybe from next month, it will take another month or so for amenities to be completed, and then, like, it is open for the residents. So then we will reach out to you for updations.
Understood. Yes, sir, yes, sir. So I would not be the one taking care of it. I
Okay.
generally take care of the accounting part, but you can just either drop a message to us on the WhatsApp group or just reach out to us using this chat support icon, sir. So we'll
Okay.
have it activated for the society, sir.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So now, sir, moving on to the expense part in that case. So under purchasing, like I previously mentioned, that we have two modules. One is general payment and one is your book expenses.
Mhm.
Now, general payment is generally to do with your expenses of the society. If in case you have any vendor specific expenses, it can be recorded under book expense.
Okay.
So now for general payment, on the top right corner, we click on create general payment. Anything that has a star on it is a mandatory field. So we'll enter the date and then we'll enter the party name. So let's say if this is my housekeeping salary, I'll enter the party as housekeeping. Select the paying account, which is the association's cash or bank account. Then I'll enter the description here. Let's say salary. And then here I have to just choose the expense account. So this
Uh-huh.
expense account is again my chart of account that I've created.
Yeah.
So I'll select this as housekeeping. and I'll enter the amount expense. If in case I want, I can also add multiple attachments to this particular expense and then click on save. So now this gets created as a general payment, which is nothing but a voucher in my system. So let's say if I'm clicking on print over here on the right side, this is what my payment voucher would look like. This is the one step creation of the expense basically.
Okay.
And the other, activities that I can perform with this particular expense is I can view it, edit, print, and delete it. And if I move my cursor on the black icon, I can see which of the admin has created this.
Uh-huh.
So any doubt with this? Or like this was the step that I had shared with you for recording expenses.
Yes, correct.
You were able to follow through, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'll just explain you book expense also. If you find that feasible, you can, start recording your expenses over there. So.
Yep. So, just a question now. What is the difference between book expenses and the previous one which you showed, general payments?
Okay, so that I like ideally speaking, there is no much difference over there. It's just that there are two entries that come into picture when you go for a book expense. Since you're first creating an expense for the vendor and then you record the payment against it. For general payment, it is straight up going as an expense. So your balance sheet will show the same thing. There'll be no difference. But if you're categorizing it vendor wise, then at the end of the day, you'll also have something called as a vendor report.
Okay.
So let's say if you have a specific vendor who's working in the society now and you want to have a separate, statement to view for this vendor, then you can go for book expenses.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay. So now in order to create a book expense, there are 3 steps that are to be followed. The first step is a one-time activity where you have to list the vendor in the system. After the vendor is created, we have to first create an expense or book an expense. And then in the third step, we record the payment against it. Now, in order to add the vendor, we go to People Hub and vendors over here.
Okay.
The list of vendors that have already been created would be listed down here. In case you wish to add a new vendor, click on Create Vendor. The name is mandatory. You can enter other details over here and click on Create. And after a vendor is created, you can always edit or delete their details.
Got it.
Now, after this vendor has been listed, on the top right corner, we click on Book Expense. And now here, these are the details that we have to enter. So we have the delivery date, the expense creation date, and the due date. And then here you have to select the vendor. So let's say if I'm recording this as my Bestcom. So I'm selecting my vendor as Bestcom over here. And then I have to choose a department. So it can be an electrical department. And if in case a vendor is handing over a bill to you, you can enter the bill number here along with the bill date.
Okay.
Okay, now as I scroll below, this item 1 is to do with the expense that I have incurred. So I'll click on choose item and click on expense over here. And then I will enter my item name. Let's say this is a bill paid for August. And then I need to choose a purchase account. Now, so again, purchase account is nothing but my chart of account.
Okay.
So I'm selecting this as my Bestcom expenses. Now, if in case it is a purchase that you have incurred, then you can enter the details like description, quantity, unit of measurement, and the rate. If in case it is a service that you have availed, then just enable is this a service? Yes over here. And just enter a description and the amount for the expense that you have incurred. So
Got it. So goods and services needs to be separated here.
that's correct.
Got it.
And if in case there is any deduction that is involved, you can enter the deduction amount and the reason for deduction over here. In case there is any GST or TDS that is included, you can always enable taxable over here and accordingly enter the amount over here. In case of TDS being calculated, just enable TDS to be applied on this item and enable TDS over here. So.
Okay.
Okay, and if you scroll below, if you want, you can add an attachment to it, enter a final description here, and then click on book expense. Then this expense would get created. Now, after these expenses are created, all of these would be listed down under vendor book expenses. You would have the expense booking number, the vendor name, the payable amount, the balance amount, and the actions that you can perform against this particular expenses. You can view the details. You can edit the expense, delete it, which of the admin has created. You can view the name, date, and time. And if you wish to record a payment against it now, you can either select this checkbox and click on settle dues, or directly click on this $ over here to pay the vendor. So.
Okay. So when you say pay the vendor, now since we have link the bank account with mygate, will this take us through the Axis Bank, or how does it work when you say pay the vendor here?
Okay, no, sir. So the integration that we have done for the society is solely for receiving the resident income, sir.
Yeah, not payable. Okay.
So here you'll have to make the payment on a real-time basis, but when you click on pay vendor, you'll
Huh.
have to enter the payment details over here.
Okay. So it is
Just like
only
how,
to account it or document it in mygate. It's
that's
nothing to do
correct,
with the
sir.
payment.
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
So the transaction would happen on a real-time basis. You'll just have to record the payment details over here. So now I'll enter the details like the payment date, paying amount, and the paying account would be my association's cash or bank account. In
Hmm.
case of an EFT transfer, I'll enable this or enter the check details.
Hmm.
The reference and description is optional. I can add an attachment to it. If I scroll below, the amount is auto-populated. I click on proceed, and then a payment voucher is generated. So the only difference so at the end, so for both these steps, I'm having a payment voucher itself that is being generated. It's just that here I will also be able to see something called as a vendor statement. So if I go to my purchasing, I have this called vendor account statement.
Mhm.
So vendor wise, let's say I created it for Bestcom today.
Okay. So it's basically to check the periodical amounts that we have paid.
That's correct, sir.
Yeah.
So here, this is what the vendor statement would look like in that case.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, since the the account will remain the same, the chart of account that is selecting in the balance sheet, it would come accordingly, sir.
Yeah.
Any doubt with these so far, sir?
No, this is
Okay.
fine.
So now next we have this bank account where we have bank reconciliation. So the transactions that are being recorded in the mygate dashboard will also have to be reconciled, which means that against these transactions, right, you will
Mhm.
have to add a bank date. So the system can mark it as reconciled. So all you have to do is click on add bank date, select a date over here, and click on add date. Then the system would mark it as reconciled.
So this is something like mygate versus bank statement.
That's correct, sir. So that the end of the day, the financials are exactly matching.
But Jyotsna, it would be like 185 flats for us. So 185 checks here then.
So are all the residents paying via check?
I mean, check as in like 185 reconciliation checks here for the.
Okay, that way. So I believe, okay, so as per my understanding, the residents who are paying online,
Uh-huh.
the system might be auto reconciling it.
Correct. Yeah, that's what I. Because that's how it is, no? Because they are paying through mygate app.
Correct, sir. And in
Only
the dashboard also, when the resident is paying through the application, right, you can actually view the payment status, sir,
correct,
as
correct.
part of the reports.
Yeah.
So because it also gets updated in the system, these get auto reconciled for payments being made through the application. Only the additional charges that you're recording would have to be manually reconciled, which again can be done in bulk as well, sir. If you want, we have an option of downloading it, and then you can upload that file back to the system, so by adding a date in bulk.
Okay.
Right. So after this reconciliation, you can actually view a detailed reconciliation report over here. And in addition to that, so currently the society only has one bank account, correct?
Correct.
And are you also using a petty cash account?
Not really. We are managing everything here only. The amount which comes in cash, we are managing for those petty expenses.
Okay, petty expenses. So basically, the petty cash account is being used, correct, sir? And
There is no, literal bank account for that. We are managing with the cash. Whoever pays the cash,
uh-huh.
that is used for the smaller expenses.
Okay, so when you're recording those expenses under general payment, you're selecting the paying account as cash itself, right?
Correct.
Okay. And also, would there be any scenario where you're having a fund transfer between the cash in hand account and the bank account? So
Not
I'll
really.
tell you the reason why I'm asking this is, so let's say if I go to the homepage of my dashboard,
Uh-huh.
so here I'll have my cash and bank opening balances, right? Although
Correct.
cash is not an account per se, but in the dashboard, because we are also keeping a track of your income and expenses,
Uh-huh.
that would be visible over here. So you'll
Huh.
have an opening balance for cash as well. Now we have certain societies who are either withdrawing the cash from their bank account or depositing it in case of being excess or deficit, right?
Okay.
So if in case you
Happens,
come
yeah.
across any scenario, you can always create a cash bank transfer in the system, sir,
Uh-huh.
so that your opening balances tally.
Okay.
So let's say if you're withdrawing, let's say this month you have an expense to be incurred of cash for rupees 10,000, but you've run 5,000 rupees short, so you need to withdraw that 5,000 from your bank account, right? That
Mhm.
time just create a cash bank transfer here. From account would be the withdrawing account, and to account would be in which you're going to transfer this particular amount to. So let's say if it is a withdrawal from your bank account, select your bank account, to account would be your cash account, enter how much amount you're withdrawing, and enter a description over here. When you click on save, because that transaction has happened on a real-time basis, it would also get recorded in the dashboard.
Okay.
So any doubt with this, sir?
No, we don't have this kind of scenario, so I think we should be good.
Okay. Okay, sir. Now, next we have something called budgeting, sir. Would you be using budgeting for the society?
Yeah, we have done it in Excel now, but yeah, it's good to have it in the dashboard here. At least we'll know how we are trending.
Right, so I'll show you how the budget system works in mygate. So in order to create one, you have to first click on new budget, enter the name of the budget, select the current financial year, and we have four types of budget period, which is annual, semi-annual, quarterly, and monthly.
Mhm.
Now, the expense account that we have created, which is your direct or indirect expenses under chart of accounts, would
Mhm.
get listed down in a budget report.
Okay.
And then you have to enter your budget against each of these items for the current financial year.
Yeah.
Right? Now, after you have entered the budget, it gets saved in the system. Right? After saving it, let's say these are the list of the budgets that the society has. And for this one, you want to view the details now. So you'll always have an option to again edit your budgets up. So now this was the budget that the society had created. The moment I click on view budget report, what the system would do is all the transactions that I have recorded against these particular expense headers would be extracted by the system. So I have the expense account here. I have the budget that I had created. This is the actual expense that I have, incurred, and the system will then give me a variance whether I have, increased or exceeded my budget, or I'm still under the budget. Basically,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
this is the budget that we have. So the end doubt, yes, sir.
Now, since for example, we are in August now, and then we started our association in July.
Okay, sir.
So the financial year starts from April, right?
Right, sir.
April, May, I don't have anything because it was under builder, control.
Right, sir.
Now, when I do a budget, it will be from June, so I'll have to take it for 10 months into consideration, right?
That's correct, sir. But again, like in the system, you'll not have an option to choose from which month it's going to start. But
Correct.
because your expenses also will start from,
July.
July onwards, then you will know that the budget was created from July onwards, and the expenses were also incurred from July onwards itself.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
Okay, so next we have these financial reports over here, sir. So under dues and advance collection, you can view all the reports, pertaining to the resident income that you have in the society. So we have the dues that are till date dues that you have. We have the dues collection by account. Then we have a consolidated report that you can view. Then we have the advance collection report as well. In income and expense analysis, we have the income and expense report and the analysis report. Under account balances, we have the receipt and payment statement and the cash bank statement. Under final accounts is where you'll find all your trial balances, income and expense account, and your balance sheet along with the detailed balance sheet. Then we have the ledger reports here, which is the ledger report and the day book. These are the tax reports that we have available in the system. And this uploads and downloads is to do with the bulk actions that you can perform, sir. So this general payment are the expenses that you're recording in the system. General receipt would be your additional income that we have not covered since the society is currently not collecting any. Then
Yeah.
we have the paid and the unpaid vendor report here as well. And if I click on upload transaction, this is where we can perform bulk actions. So let's say if you want to go ahead and upload general payments in bulk, you can always download the sample in a CSV file and then enter the details as per the defined format and then come back, choose file and upload those details.
Got it. Yeah.